So I'm Bradley Stevens, and I'm a professor of French literature at the University of Bristol. Many people think of these larger-than-life figures from history like Hugo as men of their times, and to an extent Hugo certainly was a man of the 19th century, but so many of the issues that he campaigned for and that he explored in his work continue to speak to us today, whether that be freedom from censorship, whether that be the abolition of the death penalty, the abolition of slavery, bringing an end to poverty, introducing equal rights for women and men, ending the exploitative labour of children, even our relationship with the environment, not just our social relationship with one another, but the way we relate to our natural world. All of these issues were dear to his heart and ones that he would explore with great verve in his work. I think it's important to remember that for Hugo, when he came to Guernsey, it's often acknowledged by many biographers as the period in which his voice took on an ever more obvious global resonance. So Guernsey historically has that place in Hugo's own story. And I think today in the 21st century, Guernsey can once again link itself to that very rich cultural heritage through Hugo to make itself a platform for exactly the kind of discussions around equality, around a more sustainable society that we so desperately need here in the 21st century. I think the centre, it's important that we don't just envisage it in instrumental terms. It will be a catalyst for exactly the kind of conversations and dialogues and initiatives that I've just glossed. But my hope is that it's also going to be a hub for the creativity and the imagination that was so central to everything that Hugo did. All of his social campaigning was dependent on his poetic vision of what it meant to be and what it meant to be human. So I think the centre itself will become precisely a vehicle for this kind of intrinsic pleasure and exploration and curiosity that was so vital and that drove so much of his work. I have been working on Victor Hugo for pretty much my entire academic career in one way or another. And when I learned of initiatives here in Guernsey to promote Hugo's place within the island's cultural heritage and on the global stage, of course, I couldn't resist getting involved. I was delighted when I learned of the Victor Hugo Centre initiative, and I've thrown my full weight behind it. Anything I can do to support this, I will do, because I fully believe in its ability to engage new audiences, as well as those who are already familiar with Hugo and are wanting to connect with other like-minded individuals. I think in terms of where I see myself in all of this, it's as a facilitator. It's being one of those many voices in a chorus of different individuals who are trying to make this dream a reality now, not least given the urgency and the importance of so many of those social campaigning issues that we've talked about. He is daunting in the size of his reputation and the size of his body of work. He wasn't known for his concision when he wrote, but that shouldn't put readers or new audiences off. I think one of the best ways of thinking about Hugo is using his own metaphor of the ocean. He saw his mind as this great vast ocean with lots of different peaks and troughs and different aspects. The advantage of that kind of image or metaphor is that it means you can take any drop out of Hugo's work and you can begin to understand the whole. I think it's also important to remember that he didn't envisage his work as being simply of its time. It was timely, but for him, he wanted it to be timeless. And he didn't want it to be limited, not just by the boundaries of history, the idea that if you write in a certain century, you belong to that century, but he also wanted it to cross into different cultures, different languages, different areas and communities. So he's writing for everybody. He says this himself about his most famous novel, Les Miserables, that this isn't a French novel. It's not even a European novel. It's a human novel. And what he means by that is that it's written for everybody at all different times. So I would encourage any reader to recognize or at least listen to that voice that's still trying to talk to us. And remember that, in fact, it is hugely relatable. There is a very good reason why Hugo continues to be adapted, why his stories continue to be retold, why his plays continue to be performed, why his poems continue to be recited or adapted into music. And that's because that voice has been acknowledged by so many different artists and audiences and campaigners. And I'd really like to thank the people of Guernsey for the very warm welcome they've always given myself and other Hugo experts and stakeholders from the cultural sector when we've had our annual festival here, but also in particular to thank all those who've been involved with the Victor Hugo Centre thus far. It's a tremendous initiative, a huge undertaking, and I very much hope that the people of Guernsey will get behind this, given that very close and intimate relationship between one of world literature's greatest writers and their own island heritage.